Hi, I'm Joseph Pillsbury. I am the author of Actual Factual Magic, the simplified guide to Walt Disney World. And in honor of our actualfactualmagic.com website, I'm going to kick off the magic stories section. So I'm going to tell you a story. This is true. Swear to God, this really happened. This is my first experience with Disney magic. The whole idea here is share your stories, whether you want to write them in or send them in video form or whatnot. We'd be happy to host them here. I think it's fun for us all to share the magic in a spot that we can all enjoy it. So let's get in the Wayback Machine. Back in 1982, back when I only had a few of these gray hairs, it was my senior year of high school. My school band was invited to compete that spring in what was called the Orange Blossom Festival. The Orange Blossom Festival was a week-long event hosted by the city of Orlando, I'm guessing, and it invited standout music programs from all over the country to come compete in venues all around Orlando, both in auditorium settings and marching band settings, and we also got to play at some fun venues too. It was quite an honor, particularly for a bunch of high school kids. Now, the band I was in, the Duluth East High School Band, go Greyhounds, was quite good. We had a great reputation for being an outstanding sit-down concert band, but being from northern Minnesota, we really never had the time or the weather during the school year to practice marching. So we'd make one quick appearance during the halftime event at our homecoming football game in September, and then we'd play again in the very cold Christmas City of the North Parade, which I believe is the last week in November in Duluth. And neither of these venues are ideal for marching when you consider Minnesota can have more than a foot of snow on the ground before the end of October. Oh, we tried. We practiced in the school's gym after school, and even many early Saturday mornings. But our band was quite large, and the gym was not. We could only really march the group forward or backwards for maybe a few measures of a tune before we'd have to stop or we'd hit a wall. So all we could really do is stamp our feet in place, play our instruments, listen to whistled commands about stopping and starting, but that's about it. We really never had a chance to be a good marching band, and we were actually pretty bad. So by the time spring arrived, we were all amped up, getting ready to jet off to Orlando for this competition. And aside from the competitive venues that we were scheduled to play at, a festival also included more fun opportunities where bands could play in exchange for park admission. So we were all excited about that too, because, high school kids in an amusement park, what could be better than that? So our first full day in Orlando, we bussed from our hotels over to SeaWorld. Well, to our relief, the park operations people thought the park was too crowded and not really designed for a parade per se. So what they'd asked of us is if we could just stand at the big entrance plaza to their park, stand in front of a fountain and a reflecting pool, play a bunch of tunes for people as they came into the park, and that was it. We were free to go and enjoy the park. And also, they were cool enough to understand that we were a bunch of northerners who had not had a chance to adjust to the heat of the Florida sun, so they agreed to let us wear what we called our casual band uniform. Let me clarify that. We had 2 band uniforms, actually 3. So the first one was a traditional black wool marching band uniform that had a silver overlay with the school's name on it and the big Q-tip black hats that the Buckingham Palace guards wear, and pretty sharp looking uniforms. These uniforms were new that this particular year. We got them through a bunch of fundraising, and very proud that we were going to be wearing these brand new uniforms to competition. And plus, you could remove that overlay and put on some dress shoes and put on a white shirt and a tie, and suddenly you had a really beautiful tuxedo. So for what we did most as a band, which was concert settings, we looked outstanding. We looked so professional because we all had beautiful tuxedos. So that was the 2 pieces of our formal uniform. And then we had a casual uniform because we knew we were going to Florida. We knew that wearing a black wool uniform in the Florida heat would be pretty tough. So we came up with a red polo shirt that had the band's logo printed on it. We had a red baseball cap, a red and gray baseball cap that had the band's logo on it. We'd all wear matching gray shorts or skirts, and then matching shoes and socks. And we could all be comfortable and not overheat in the Florida sun. So we were all proud of that innovation. And we were super happy that SeaWorld was like, yeah, that's a cool idea. Why don't you do that? And had us play in their entry plaza, which was great. So we did about 45 minutes to an hour of tunes. And then we're dismissed to go run around the park. But standing with unprotected skin in front of a reflecting pool in the hot Florida sun. The sun was magnified by that reflecting pool, and it fried the backs of our arms and legs pretty raw. That evening, most of us looked like lobsters fresh out of the boiling pot. There just wasn't enough aloe vera cream, solar cane, any remedy we could think of, ice, anything to calm those sunburns. They were bad. So day 2 had us visiting the Magic Kingdom. So this was a casual day, this was a fun day. Though we were all baked lobsters, we still were pretty dang happy to experience the world-famous Magic Kingdom at the time. This was actually just months before Epcot opened, so there was actually, the monorail was available if you wanted to go take the loop around Spaceship Earth to see Epcot being built, but Epcot itself was not yet open yet. It was still just the Magic Kingdom. So we felt pretty special that we had a whole day to enjoy the Magic Kingdom. And actually, that evening we had to perform in some concert venues for competition, but the day was fun. The day was ours, and we got to experience just how cool Disney was. The no trash to be seen anywhere, that sweet smell of the confectionery when you walk in, and that first view of Cinderella's castle. I mean, we were just blown away. You know, we have all experienced rides before, county fairs and seasonal amusement parks here in Minnesota, but at Disney, every ride you're part of a bigger story. The midday parades were flawlessly produced. The floats, the bands, the characters. Everyone we met was so nice and so friendly and so helpful. And we were just blown away just how classy Disney was. You know, we all loved our first Disney experience. We were excited that we would be back in a couple of days to perform there, to march there. Yeah. Oh God, we were supposed to march at the Magic Kingdom later that week. Yikes. So anyway, we tried to put that fear out of our head. We still had a few things to do before that was going to happen. Day 3 had us performing at a now defunct park called Circus World. Circus World was a bizarre mishmash of carnival games, rickety thrill rides, poorly kept circus attractions. I believe it was the training grounds for Barnum and Bailey's, I think, their clown program. So there was an abundance of circus clowns roaming the park. It was another hot Florida day. We were still all recovering from the SeaWorld debacle. We're all still burned, but we're tough kids. We endured. And besides, we would have free run of this weird amusement park for most of the morning before we had to perform. The park, Circus World, said they were going to feed us, but what they did was they had a lot of leftover hot dogs from a previous event, so they gave us tokens where we could have all the free hot dogs we could stand. And teenage kids are kind of infamous for abusing food when it's offered free and unlimited, and so we overdid it. Here again, we assumed Circus World would follow suit to what SeaWorld did for us and go, oh, those casual uniforms are a great idea for the Florida sun. You should do that again. But Circus World went Oh no, a Circus World guests demand the best for the midday Circus Parade experience. So we require you to march in your dress march uniforms up and down the lanes of the amusement park when the parade kicks off later in the day. Gulp. So we suited up, prepared our instruments, assembled backstage, and at that moment realized what being part of a circus parade really meant. Unlike other parades, circus parades had a lot of roaming clowns and a surprising amount of exotic animals, including elephants. Guess where we were positioned in the parade lineup? Yep, behind elephants. So the parade kicked off. There was music piped in from speakers hidden in their floats that were ahead of us and behind us. Clowns ran up and down the length of the parade route, having fun with onlookers, and they would cut into our lines in the band and mess with us too. So it didn't take long for the sweat to start forming under our giant black fuzzy Q-tip style marching hats. Heat was held within our layers of wool material, and it built up as we marched. It was like boot camp at a proper Finnish sauna. Within a block of starting to march, the poor decisions from earlier in the day started to haunt us. All of those greasy hot dogs churned in our stomachs. The queasiness from creaky thrill rides amplified the effect. All laid on top of the first stages of what was probably sunstroke from the SeaWorld debacle. That annoying calliope music being piped in from the floats before and after us did not cease when it was our turn to play. So we had to take our turn playing over their music. That created this horrible mashup of uncomplimentary sounds. Those damn clowns ran through our lines and messed with us while we tried to play. It was terrible. They thought it was hilarious. We were not amused. It was bound to happen. One of the kids in our band barfed, causing a few others to follow. The girls at the front of the formation who volunteered to learn flag twirling routines never used to have to consider alternating the sizes of the width of streets before. Here, marching between attractions at an amusement park, the lanes widened and contracted regularly. Along the path, the girls managed to club at least one spectator and two unfortunate, but probably deserving, clowns who ventured too close to their spinning flags. And then there were the elephants. We all love elephants and the novelty of being so close to these incredible animals, right up until they started to relieve themselves in the middle of the parade. Let's just say it's impossible to maintain straight marching lines when you are also trying to step around freshly deposited piles of elephant droppings. Looking back, it probably was hilarious. But in the moment, we were mortified. We sounded bad, we looked bad. Though Circus World was not busy that day, we heard enough of the comments from people as we stumbled our way down the street. We were being laughed at. The bus ride back to the hotel was nearly silent. We were proud of our home community and very proud of the reputation we had in our state as one of the premier high school music programs. And though a lot of this was out of our hands, we were embarrassed at our performance. And we were slated to perform at the Magic Kingdom the very next day. Dear God, help us. Day 4. To say we were nervous when we loaded up the buses for Disney that very next morning would be an understatement. We had already gotten a taste of what a world-class operation they were and felt completely unworthy of being asked to perform there that day. Our buses took us backstage, went to an enclosed aircraft hangar-style building somewhere behind Frontierland. We were kind of in the shadow of Big Thunder Mountain at the time. Before we were allowed off the buses, we had a rep from Disney tell us exactly what was expected of us that day. 1, for the day, we would be considered cast members. Thus, we were required to behave just like we were part of the company and given a crash course on what that actually meant. 2, no photos backstage. Cameras would be confiscated if anyone shot any pictures of anything backstage. And it was tempting because all of the electric light parade floats were being stored back there. The day floats for the parade we were going to be in were there. Characters were preparing for their day. Dancers were rehearsing. Immediately we were struck by the fact that Disney was not treating us like kids. They were treating us like real professionals. It wasn't strict or intimidating, though. It was friendly and welcoming. There was something about how we were being coached on their expectations that made us feel we were going to be part of something really special. They had us take our positions in our parade lineup, and they chose very specific people from the front, from the middle, and from the back of our group to walk the length of Main Street in the parade route with the parade coordinator. They were shown exactly where the band would get a chance to pause, play a song, then march again. And they did this step by step, landmark by landmark, along the entire parade route. We were given special park passes, which gave us access to a secret backstage doorway. We could come and go like other cast members. To this day, I recall walking from the backstage area behind two princesses. I think it was Snow White and Cinderella. Backstage, these two young women were talking like any two young friends might, but immediately snapped into character, voices, everything when they crossed the line painted on the pavement well before they got to the door to get on stage. I remember thinking how cool that was. They were so focused on maintaining the magic that these performers started performing well before anyone could possibly see them and break that magic spell. We had a little time to play in the park before we had to gather back off stage to prepare for our performance. Sure, we had fun, but now we were seeing Disney as kind of an insider. We appreciated the details of the park more. We appreciated cast members more. And one thing the rep had said echoed in our brains. There would be more people in the Magic Kingdom that day than the entire population of our hometown. And we would be part of their lifelong memories. We knew he was right. Disney experiences stick with you. So the parade time neared. We siphoned back from the park through that secret unmarked door and gathered in the big parade building again. We went behind curtains and got into our black marching gear. No complaints this time. We knew we had to look sharp. But Disney had a surprise for us. When we came out dressed for our parade, there was a giant bass drum with our high school band's name printed on it. They did allow us to take pictures of that, even though it was backstage. It was so cool. Disney had done so much to make us feel special. But deep inside we knew we were the poor marching band that had just barely survived the elephant dung obstacle course 24 hours earlier. We were quiet and humbled by what we felt Disney was going to be expecting of us, and worried about what we were capable of actually delivering. Parade time. I think we were sandwiched between two character floats. No elephants to be seen. Our director snapped us to attention. The whole band reacted instantly, from a scattering of kids to sharp lines and smart-looking uniforms. I don't think the band ever snapped to attention like that before. The director whistled for the drummers to count to a rhythmic cadence, and the band stepped forward as one solid unit. We marched up a lane behind the Jungle Cruise, where our drummers knew from the parade preparation that they needed to play lightly on the drums, so we'd still have a beat to march to, but also so the drums would blend in with the native jungle sound effects within the ride itself, so not to ruin anything for the guests on the boats just beyond the berm of jungle plants and trees. We paused backstage just inside the parade doorway near the Main Street Firehouse. We heard the public address system introduced the parade inside the park. Those doors opened, and our drummers instantly returned to full volume. We again stepped off in perfect unison. There, under the cover of my sousaphone bell, I snuck a glance down my line and forward. And we were perfect. We could not have been more perfect. There was no clatter of feet striking the pavement. Instead, there was just one solid clap as each student stepped, each foot in perfect time with their fellow bandmates. Something special was happening. We marched to the area right in front of the train station. We all turned in perfect time to face our director, who had positioned himself on the sidewalk to cue up our first song. If memory serves, we had rehearsed a selection of Disney favorites. We swung up our instruments to our lips and burst out a pitch-perfect version of Zippity-Doo-Dah. We sounded like the best college marching band sound. We somehow sounded better than we did even in our sit-down concert settings. In fact, we had never sounded this good before. We finished that song, snapped our instruments down, did a hard, perfect turn back to our right, and started our way down Main Street. This corner provided us deeper in the ranks of the band with a clear view of what we were part of that day. We saw Main Street was packed with spectators, people taking pictures, kids on shoulders, people waving at us. We saw Disney performers wheeling that giant bass drum with our band's name on it just ahead of us. And we saw ourselves performing like we were a military drill team that did nothing but march day after day. After performing the Mickey Mouse March while marching up Main Street and again performing flawlessly, we could feel kind of a giddiness taking over the band. Of course, we could not express anything during our performance, but we could exchange knowing glances with our lines. Something special was going on. We paused again at the foot of the castle stage to perform another number. Again, we stopped, turned, played our song, turned again and resumed our way into Liberty Square. We marched and played a couple more times, and it just kept getting better and better. We marched out the large barn-like gates that took us out of Frontierland and stayed in perfect form, stepping to the drummer's beat until we were fully backstage and well out of the sight of any guests. The band halted, and we all stopped with one perfectly clear, solid stomp. I felt like we held that position for an unusually long amount of time. I think our band director wanted us to savor the moment. And then we heard the whistle call that basically told us we were dismissed. The entire band broke out in glorious cheer, hugs, high fives all around. We went crazy. We had all just experienced that famous Disney magic firsthand. I swear there is no earthly reason for our band to have performed so well that day. And this was not just our perception. After returning home and our concert and jazz band receiving trophies from the Orange Blossom Festival competition, we also received a letter from Disney. They were so impressed with our performance, they gave us an open invitation to come back to perform anytime in the next 5 years. I've never experienced quite that much as a young tuba player in a high school band, but I do still feel that magic on every trip I've made, similar to that trip so many years ago. It's why I keep going back, and it's why I author Actual Factual Magic, the Simplified Guide to Walt Disney World. I want other people to experience what I've experienced. I want people to feel inspired and feel something special that maybe they won't get in their normal lives. Don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise. Disney magic is real.